there is a quiet irony in the life of a Sigma male, an irony that follows him like a faint shadow. He spends his days minding his own business, walking his own path and asking for nothing from the world, and yet it is often the world that becomes disturbed by his presence. He is not loud, he is not demanding, and he does not strive for attention or validation. But the simple nature of who he is tends to provoke strong reactions in others, as if his silence says more than the words people constantly try to use to explain themselves. Most men are social glue. They bond, they blend, they compromise, and they adjust. Sigma males, however, live differently. They operate according to internal values rather than social expectations. They move quietly, speak selectively, and refuse to participate in unnecessary drama. They live outside the hierarchy, not out of rebellion, but out of clarity. Clarity about who they are, what matters, and what's worth their energy. But this clarity comes with a price. In a world where most people rely on approval, noise, group identity, and emotional exchange to feel secure, the Sigma male's independence can feel threatening. Even worse, some of his most natural behaviors he hardly thinks about, can be interpreted by others as rude, cold, arrogant, or even hostile. And here is the truth very few people ever say aloud. Sometimes it is not that the Sigma male is hated for what he does. It is that he is hated for what he does not do. He does not chase people. He does not react emotionally. He does not engage in meaningless conversation. He does not pretend to be impressed. He does not need anyone to validate him. To the average person, these traits can feel like judgment, even when no judgment is intended. They project their insecurities onto him, assuming he is dismissing or rejecting them. But occasionally, the Sigma male also develops certain habits, subtle ones that unintentionally push people away. Not because he is wrong, not because he is unkind, but because his internal world is so intense, so inwardly focused, and so self-sustaining that he forgets how uncomfortable his silence, his distance, or his detachment can make others feel. Today, we are going to explore these habits, not to shame them, not to change the Sigma male into something he is not, but to bring awareness, because awareness is the foundation of mastery. And even a powerful man benefits from understanding the effects he has on the world around him. Let's begin. Number 1, withdrawing without explanation. Sigma males often disappear into their own world when they need space. To them, this feels natural, but to others, it feels like abandonment, rejection, or emotional coldness. People take it personally, even when it has nothing to do with them. For the Sigma male, solitude is not an escape from people. It is a return to himself. It is the place where his thoughts settle, where his mind becomes sharper, and where he regains control over his internal energy. He does not retreat because he is upset, bored, or uninterested. He retreats because silence is where he recenters his soul. But the people around him do not see it this way. They see the sudden quiet, the lack of responses, and the emotional withdrawal, and they interpret it through their own insecurities. They assume they have done something wrong. They assume the Sigma male is pulling away because he no longer cares. They assume his distance is a reflection of their worth. What they fail to understand is that a Sigma's need for space is not a reaction. It is a rhythm. It is built into his nature. Just as some people recharge through connection, Sigma males recharge through separation. The world has conditioned most people to fear silence. They equate distance with danger and absence with loss. So when a Sigma disappears into himself, they panic. They cling. They overthink. Yet the Sigma male returns every time, calmer, clearer, and more grounded. His distancing is temporary, not permanent. It is maintenance, not abandonment. The challenge is that few people can understand a man who needs solitude as much as others need oxygen. And so the Sigma male's natural self-preservation often becomes misunderstood as emotional neglect, when in truth it is the very thing that allows him to remain present, stable, and authentic in the long run. Number 2, being too selective with conversation. A Sigma male does not waste words. He avoids small talk. He only speaks when necessary. While this is efficient and authentic, many mistake it for arrogance, boredom, or superiority. What they fail to understand is that his silence is not a weapon. It is a form of discipline. It is the quiet proof that he does not feel the need to fill the air simply to feel relevant. In a world addicted to noise, the man who speaks with intention will always stand out. And often, he will be misunderstood. He listens more than he talks, and this alone unsettles people. Most individuals depend on constant verbal reassurance, laughter to show friendliness, commentary to show involvement, and endless chatter to show belonging. The Sigma male operates on a different frequency. He communicates through presence, through observation, and through sharp, carefully chosen statements. This makes others uneasy because they cannot easily read him. They can't predict his next move. They feel exposed while he remains centered. His silence forces others to confront their own insecurities. They project assumptions onto him, assuming he thinks he's better or uninterested or detached. But the truth is simpler. He does not seek validation. He does not perform. He does not speak to impress. When he talks, it is because he has something meaningful to say. When he is quiet, it is because he is thinking, analyzing, absorbing, or simply choosing not to engage in pointless noise. Over time, people realize that this restraint is a strength, not a flaw. It protects his energy, keeps his mind clear, and ensures that his words carry weight when he finally decides to speak. In a world full of voices competing to be heard, the Sigma male's silence is its own kind of power, measured, intentional, and impossible to imitate. Number 3, displaying emotionless facial expressions. The Sigma's face often reflects deep thought rather than warmth. His neutral or unreadable expression makes others uneasy, leading to instant dislike or suspicion. This isn't because he intends to appear cold or intimidating. It's simply the natural byproduct of a mind that spends most of its time observing, analyzing, and quietly processing everything around him. While other men wear their emotions on their sleeves, the Sigma's inner world is vast and private, and his face becomes a calm mask that reveals very little. People who rely on expressive cues to feel safe or connected often misinterpret this silence as rejection. They assume he is judging them, looking down on them, or hiding something behind that controlled expression. In reality, the Sigma is usually lost in his own thoughts, studying patterns, noticing details, or reflecting on things that have nothing to do with the people around him. But because humans are wired to fear what they cannot read, his stillness becomes a threat. Individuals with insecure personalities especially feel unsettled by a man who gives them no emotional feedback. They cannot predict him. They cannot influence him. They cannot tell whether he approves, disapproves, or simply doesn't care. This ambiguity forces them into their own insecurities, making them project negative assumptions onto him. Even worse, society expects men to be expressive, social, and easy to interpret. And the Sigma's refusal to play that role breaks the unspoken social rules. People feel they cannot place him into a category, and what cannot be categorized is often treated with suspicion. Yet ironically, this very trait, his calm, unreadable presence, is part of what gives him power. It grants him emotional independence, psychological stability, and the ability to move through life without being controlled by others' perceptions or expectations. Number 4, ignoring social rituals, birthday greetings, group chats, polite check-ins, mandatory enthusiasm. Sigma males often skip these without malice, but others interpret it as disrespect or indifference. What most people don't understand is that these social rituals are not avoided out of arrogance. They simply do not register as meaningful forms of connection for the Sigma. He values sincerity over performance, intention over obligation, and depth over routine pleasantries. So when he chooses silence, it is rarely an act of neglect. It is an act of conserving authenticity. The Sigma male's mind works differently. He does not feel compelled to participate in every celebration, respond to every notification, or mirror the emotional tone of a group chat just to keep up appearances. To him, forced communication is not real communication. He respects people far too much to pretend he feels something he doesn't. But because society has conditioned most individuals to interpret participation as care and absence as rejection, the Sigma's minimalism often appears cold. A missed birthday message becomes a personal slight. A lack of emoji-filled enthusiasm becomes a sign of emotional distance. His quietness is misread as disregard. Yet if people look closer, they would find that the Sigma expresses loyalty and affection through action rather than social currency. He shows up when it matters, not when it is convenient. He gives attention when it is sincere, not when it is socially required. And because he does not waste emotional energy on surface-level exchanges, the moments he chooses to speak or engage carry far greater weight. The Sigma is not uncaring, he is simply uninterested in the rituals that most people use to fill silence. His presence may be quiet, but it is never empty. Those who learn to understand this discover that behind his minimal gestures lies one of the most genuine forms of human connection. Number 5, appearing unimpressed by status or achievements. When others boast, the Sigma responds calmly or not at all. This lack of reaction can feel insulting to people who rely on praise as emotional fuel. You see, most individuals boast not because they are confident, but because they are insecure. Their words are not a celebration of achievement, but a request for validation. They want applause, approval, and admiration to soothe the parts of themselves that feel small. So when they speak loudly about their accomplishments, they expect others to feed their ego with enthusiasm. But the Sigma male is not wired that way. He does not give exaggerated responses or perform emotional theatrics. He listens, he observes, and often he simply nods. This quiet neutrality creates discomfort. To those who depend on external validation, the Sigma's composure feels like rejection. They interpret it as disrespect, indifference, or even hidden superiority. But the truth is simpler. The Sigma just isn't impressed by noise. He's impressed by depth. He values authenticity, not performance. He can hear a man brag for 5 minutes and still judge him only by his actions. This is why his silence feels dangerous to insecure people. They don't know what he's thinking. They don't know if he approves. They don't know if he sees through them, which he often does, and that uncertainty eats at them. The Sigma's calm response forces others to confront their own motives. It exposes how dependent they are on recognition. It reveals how loudly they speak just to avoid facing their inner emptiness. While most people engage in social games of status and comparison, the Sigma quietly opts out. His lack of reaction is not an attack, it's a mirror, and for many, seeing themselves without the mask of ego is more uncomfortable than any insult he could ever deliver. Number 6, setting firm boundaries without softening the edges. The Sigma's boundaries are non-negotiable, but because he states them plainly, without cushioning language, people assume he is cold, harsh, or dismissive. What they fail to understand is that a Sigma male has no interest in decorating the truth to make it easier for others to digest. He is not trying to offend, nor is he trying to dominate. He is simply communicating in the most direct, efficient, and honest way possible. In a world where many people blur their limits to avoid friction, the Sigma's clarity feels unsettling. His no does not come wrapped in excuses, apologies, or emotional padding. It is firm, concise, and delivered with an inner stillness that many interpret as emotional distance. But behind that simplicity lies a deeper intention: to protect his energy, maintain his mental clarity, and honor his personal principles. The Sigma understands that the more vague a boundary is, the more likely it will be crossed, so he chooses precision. And because he doesn't add unnecessary explanations, people project their own insecurities onto his silence. They imagine hostility where there is none, and frostiness where there is only focus. The Sigma's directness is not an attack. It is a form of respect. He believes that everyone benefits from knowing exactly where they stand. What others hear as bluntness is, for him, a commitment to truth. What others read as coldness is simply emotional discipline, and what others label as harsh is merely the absence of pretense. Over time, those who value clarity come to appreciate the Sigma's straightforwardness, while those who rely on sugar-coated communication find him difficult to understand. But the Sigma remains unmoved. He knows that a boundary softened for comfort is not a boundary at all, and he refuses to compromise the very thing that keeps his life ordered, peaceful, and authentic. Number 7, refusing to participate in drama or gossip. While a Sigma's neutrality is healthy, those invested in emotional chaos interpret it as judgment. They feel exposed by his refusal to join the noise. This calm detachment acts like a mirror, quietly reflecting back their own instability, insecurities, and unprocessed emotions. The Sigma isn't condemning anyone, he's simply choosing not to feed the fire. But to those who rely on conflict for validation, his silence feels like rejection. They begin to project their discomfort onto him, assuming he is looking down on them, when in reality, he is simply protecting his mental space. His composure reveals what others try to hide, and that revelation makes them uneasy. People who depend on drama often feel threatened by anyone who refuses to participate because it removes their power. The Sigma's steady presence disrupts the emotional ecosystem they've built, forcing them to confront the very turmoil they attempt to mask. Number 8, having a lifestyle that makes others feel unnecessary. Self-sufficiency is the Sigma's greatest strength and others' greatest insecurity. When someone realizes the Sigma does not need them, resentment often follows. This is because most people build their identity around being useful, validated, or depended on. They feel secure when others rely on them, and threatened when someone moves through life with quiet independence. The Sigma's ability to stand alone, emotionally, mentally, and even socially, reveals an uncomfortable truth many try to avoid. Dependence is often disguised as love, loyalty, or friendship. The Sigma does not reject others. He simply refuses to anchor his sense of worth in them. And that level of internal stability exposes the fragility in people who rely on external approval. Instead of being inspired, some respond with frustration, envy, or subtle hostility. They misinterpret the Sigma's self-reliance as arrogance, when in reality, it is simply the result of developing a strong, self-contained identity. In the end, the path of the Sigma male is not built on pleasing others, nor is it shaped by chasing acceptance. It is shaped by awareness of self, awareness of impact, and awareness of the way your presence influences the space around you. You do not need to change who you are, nor soften your strength, nor dilute your masculinity. But every man who seeks mastery must learn to understand his own shadows. These habits are not inherently wrong. Many are simply reflections of a mind that prefers depth over noise and clarity over chaos. When you recognize them within yourself, you gain the power to use them intentionally. And that is where true maturity begins. People will misunderstand you, project onto you, and fear your silence or independence. But being misunderstood is not a weakness. It is evidence that you are living differently. So refine yourself, stay aware, and walk with quiet intention. Having said that, thank you for watching, and stay grounded, gentlemen.